What's up, guys? We are back on Fall Obsession Podcast. Thanks for tuning in to another new episode. My name is Sam Thrash. I'm your show host over here. And we've had a couple of weeks off. It wasn't really planned or anticipated that way in our recording schedule, but that's unfortunately how it fell. I've been in Idaho for a couple of weeks, just got back to Texas at the time we're recording this one. Went on my elk hunt and everything. But unfortunately, you guys are going to have to wait one more week before you hear on this show the story from the Idaho mountains and everything that happened up there. You're not going to want to miss it, I'll tell you that. But this week we have a more time sensitive issue that we wanted to share with you guys, make sure that we get out there. And that is on what's going on in Colorado right now, Proposition 127, and what's coming to the ballot for Colorado voters this November. My guest this week on the show is Dan Gates from the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management Organization. You guys have probably seen him, whether you realize it or not, on TV or your social media pages, whatever it might be. Big guy with a big old beard, can't miss him. But we are here to talk about mountain lion hunting, the ban on cats that's coming down the pipe in Colorado, and everything that means, and why Colorado residents should vote no on Proposition 127. And I know for some of you that might not understand what's going on or have heard what's going on, you might be thinking, man, you're a podcast host from Texas. Why are you talking about this kind of stuff? What does it mean to you? It means a lot to me because not only am I a hunter and an outdoorsman, I am a non-resident hunter in Colorado. I put in for points every year. I've purchased a Colorado tag before. I've hunted Colorado before, even as a Texan. And there's thousands of other people in the same boat as me, and even more that would one day have dreams or aspirations to hunt Colorado in whatever capacity. This isn't just a ban on mountain lion hunting. This is a statement, is what this is. This is ballot-based biology, is what it comes down to. The state of Colorado is trying to get rid of hunting through the ballot box, basically, by putting it in the hands of uneducated individuals who have no idea what they're even voting for, who have no idea of the long-term effects or implications of them voting yes or no on a proposition like this. The the science, the end result of all this needs to be left to the experts. It needs to be left to fish and game departments. It needs to be left to actual scientists that study this kind of stuff. And I know I'm getting into it in the intro right here. Dan definitely gets fired up in this episode and talks about this same stuff, but this podcast and what's going on in Colorado, it is vital to the future of hunting because you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. And if something like this passes and happens in Colorado, it's only a matter of time before next they're banning sheep, goat, elk, deer hunting, and then it starts coming to other states. So this is the line in the sand or the line in the concrete, as Dan puts it during this podcast. And if you are a hunter who cares at all about your rights as a hunter and outdoorsman, who cares about wildlife management, you need to listen to this podcast. I know I try to steer clear of politics as best I can on the show. We can't ignore this. Nobody should be ignoring this right now. So if you're a Colorado resident, please listen to this episode. Please listen to what Dan has to say. If you are not a Colorado resident, but you have family, friends, people that you care about that will be voting in Colorado, I encourage you guys to share this podcast with them. I encourage you guys to share any of the shows that Dan has been on there. Talk to them about Proposition 127, what it means and everything, and help them make an educated decision when November rolls around. So I'm done rambling. I know that's a long intro to preface this episode. I'm going to save the rest of it for my conversation with Dan. But before we get into it, you guys know the drill. I'm going to hit a few things real quick with the sponsors, the people who make Fall Obsession Podcast happen for you guys. The first one being Hoot Camo. I just got done with my second out-of-state hunt wearing Hoot gear, this time up in the mountains in Idaho. Last year it was in eastern Colorado. Can't say enough about the gear. It performs exactly like you would want any high quality set of camouflage to perform. The pattern is versatile. It literally adapts to different environments that it's in. Very impressive to watch that stuff work. So go to hootcamo.com, check them out, see what you think. You can place an order no matter how big or small. They have more than just hunting gear on there. They got fishing gear, lifestyle gear, hats, shirts, all that jazz. So use the code FallObsession15 at checkout. That will save you guys some money. And as you start shopping around, I hope you guys realize how competitively priced Hoot is for the blue collar guy looking to get into a good quality set of camouflage compared to some other manufacturers. So they're worth checking out. Hootcamo.com. Go hit them up. Elite Archery is another podcast partner. Been rocking an Elite bow for several seasons. Also had it up in Idaho on the elk hunt with me. And we definitely put our equipment and our gear and everything to the test up there. My Elite held up phenomenally against the elements and against a rocky ride into the mountains on the back of a horse. Can't say enough about Elite. Can talk all day, honestly, about how great they are, but the ultimate test for you guys is going to be going and actually shooting one of their bows at a local dealer, taking that shootability challenge, comparing it to other brands, and see what you think. Compare it to your bow, compare it to other brands you might be interested in, and let the results speak for themselves. You won't be disappointed. News on Safaris is a Fall Obsession podcast partner. We know multiple people that have hunted with News on and have had a great experience. So if you guys are looking to book that big African safari that you've been anticipating, you need to do it with News on. What's even better is that News on is offering Fall Obsession podcast listeners a smoking deal to where you guys can save some money on that big trip if you tell them that Fall Obsession sent you. Those savings specifically are going to be a $500 trophy credit, free lodging, food, and drinks. Your professional hunter, tracker, and skinner fees are going to be covered. Your basic trophy prep is taken care of. All that comes out to a $2,250 value per person, and that's valid for up to 4 people in your hunting party. Do the quick math on that. You could be saving $9,000 on an already expensive trip, no matter how you look at it. It's worth it. And all you got to do again is tell News On that Fall Obsession sent you their way. You can call Tim at 303-946-9441. Again, that's Tim, and he will get you set up with News On Safaris. Trophy Edits is a Fall Obsession podcast partner. Hunting season's coming up, and I'm sure in years past that we have all had those photos that we were super excited to see. It was a big moment out in the woods, perhaps your best year ever, whatever it might be. You get a look at the picture and it just isn't there. It just doesn't do the moment justice. Maybe the lighting was wrong. It was too dark. It was blurry, whatever it might be. Just didn't turn out the way that you thought. Well, what Trophy Edits does is they clean that stuff up and help you make the most out of that moment in the woods. So go check them out. There is a link in the description on this episode that you can click on, and that link will let them know that Fall Obsession sent you their way. But you guys can go to their website, check them out, shop around, and see if they can do anything for you. They do small projects, big projects, whatever it might be. You can also order prints and all sorts of other stuff. The options are endless. Go check out Trophy Edits and see what they can do for that hunting memory that you want to make the most of. The Outdoor Call Radio app is a podcast partner. Outdoors Dan from Respect the Game TV. He created an app that you can download on any device, and you can stream hunting shows and podcasts from there on a loop every single day. Fall Obsession podcast streams on that loop on Mondays. That's the same day as our new publications. And he also has tons of other hunting shows and podcasts on there that we all know and love. Go download the Outdoor Call Radio app today. It is free and you can start streaming immediately. And be sure that you follow them and Outdoors Dan on social media, because he does a couple of different live radio shows throughout the week, and he shares those broadcasts on his social media platforms in the event that you are not local to those radio stations. So the Outdoor Call Radio app, go download it today. Last but not least, Ridge Rock Hunt Company is a podcast partner. Derek Eves is the man over there in Mississippi. And if you are looking to book a hunt with a North American outfitter that is trusted and vetted, you need to give him a call. He has a large network through Ridge Rock of trusted and vetted outfitters that he himself or somebody that he knows and loves has hunted with them and has had a great experience. He guarantees a great experience. So you'll get the most for what you're looking for. Give Derek Eves a call, book that next North American adventure with him and Ridge Rock Hunt Company. Finally, thank you guys for tuning into another podcast. Whatever platform you are listening on, please make sure that you are following the show, you're subscribed, have notifications turned on if that's an option. Leave us a review if you can. That's something that not a lot of people think about or remember as a feature on a lot of these podcast apps. We always appreciate some feedback on the show. Let us know what you guys think. Go to fallobsession.com. That's the website, the hub. All of our content filters through there. You can also support the company and pick up a hat or a shirt. We got some awesome designs floating around the website for you guys there. Follow us on social media. We are on all the major platforms. And make sure that you check out our shows on Carbon TV. This podcast is on Carbon TV, as well as our staff-inspired video podcast series, Couch Chats, and our two different hunting shows that we are involved in and produce, Texas Dirt and Midwest Mindset. You can find all of those streaming on Carbon TV. And also go check out the YouTube channel. If you guys are just listening to the audio version of this podcast and you want to check out the video version, we drop those on our YouTube channel as well. And be sure you subscribe over there. Hit that share button, share the content, share this episode especially. It's very important, and we always appreciate that. All right, on that note, we are wrapping up the intro. I know it was a long one for y'all. Thanks for sticking with us and everything. And we are now heading over to the meat of our conversation with Dan from C.R.W.M. You guys are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
Oh, you got her, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another podcast. Appreciate y'all tuning in. This week, I am joined by Mr. Dan Gates from the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management. Welcome to Fall Obsession Podcast, sir.
Thank you very much, Sam. Appreciate the opportunity and try to bring you guys up to speed on just how screwed up Colorado is, especially with the November election coming up. So looking forward to the conversation. Yes, sir. And we're going to dive right into that conversation. I do want to... I'm sure, let me start by saying this. I'm sure that most people tuning into the show have seen your face and heard in some degree, what's going on and everything in Colorado. But just briefly introduce yourself and explain to us what your organization does. Well, I'm Dan Gates. I'm the executive director for the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management, which is a 501c4. And we are a advocacy lobbying organization that was created back in 2017. I've been playing this game to some capacity for the last 20 years, and we found the need to have a better footprint on the Colorado Capital soil, and 501c3s were not capable of providing that footprint because of the tax implications or the nonprofit charitable contribution side of things. And so we're the only organization in the state of Colorado that has full-time lobbying representation for sportsmen and women at the Colorado State Capitol. Last year, we had 3 lobbyists on staff. And I'm also the current chair of the Issues Committee, Colorado Wildlife Deserve Better, which is the arm of C.R.W.M, so to speak, that is fighting Proposition 127, formerly, to those who maybe have followed this for the last 13 months, formerly Initiative 91 until it became certified by the Colorado Secretary of State, which is to attempt to prohibit the harvest of mountain lions and bobcats and lynx. And to give you a little bit of background, the organization, C.R.W.M, the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management, its mission is to enhance, promote, and defend the North American model of wildlife conservation and responsible wildlife management. We're not a membership organization. If you give us $50, we're going to take it and utilize it to the best possible resource that we can for, going to the cause of advocacy. You don't get magazines. We'll sell you some hats, and we'll sell you some shirts, and we'll sell you some tumblers and some other swag, but we're not giving anything away because this is a costly venture. And when you start getting into membership things, like most of the other organizations that we're all a member of, you start to have a lot of things that fall into maybe the gray areas or the abyss about members not wanting you to pursue this or not wanting you to promote that or not wanting you to defend that. And so C.R.W.M has a small board, and while we have fought at many, many levels over the course of the last 20 years individually and somewhat collectively, when we formulated C.R.W.M, we knew that we had to do something a little bit more to engage with this current gubernatorial administration that was elected in 2018, that is a strong left-wing animal rights extremist. The governor and the first gentleman, both of which are extremists, have an intended agenda and an intended outcome to thwart science-based wildlife management, responsible wildlife management. And they are the catalyst to a lot of these issues that we've been fighting for the course of the last 6 years. Specifically, in 2019, right after the governor took office in the spring of 19, we thwarted efforts by HSUS, the Humane Society of the United States, to ban the harvest of bobcats. And the first gentleman, Marlon Reese, was a very big instigator in that process, along with commissioners that were appointed by the governor at that time, of which we have 11 Parks and Wildlife commissioners. We thwarted that effort 11-0. And it's worth noting that because these are with some of the appointments that this governor had, and he was surprised that maybe they rolled on him, or maybe they didn't go the direction he was hoping for. In 2020, HSUS came back and we did it again, 11-0. They came back in 2021 and attempted it one more time, and they decided, they thought, had a second thought about it in the spring of 21, realizing that they probably wouldn't get the votes because of the two previous determinations, and it wasn't in their favor, so they withdrew the petition. But they came back again in 2022, in February 22, and went to the Colorado General Assembly, to the legislature, and we defeated them again. Only that time it was on bobcats and mountain lions. The line had been drawn in the sand, and they thought that they had the silver bullet, and we had the silver bullet. So we beat them essentially 4 times in a row, one including the withdrawal, and they didn't like any of those results. And so then they went out and got some support from some other individuals, including the former HSUS CEO, Wayne Pacelli, who is now running the Animal Welfare Action, and another individual by the name of Pat Craig, who runs the Colorado Animal Sanctuary, and then Samantha Bruger Miller, who came out of Washington State, who was with Wildlife First and Wildlife for All and a bunch of organizations on the West Coast. And she came here to work for a issues committee that they formulated called Cats Aren't Trophies. And she's the executive director or the campaign lead for that. And their goal is to stop everything that we were able to stop and hopefully reverse it. And we are doing everything within our power for the last 13 months and literally 90 to 100 hours a week to make sure that come November 5th that we become victorious for the 5th time in 5 tries at 3 different forms of state government. And while somebody on listening to this, Sam, might think, well, it's just mountain lions and bobcats. It is, but the language in the measure itself is not just mountain lions and bobcats. The way the language is written, and I just did a news interview today with Channel 4 News out of Denver. They even recognize that this could be the camel nose under the tent. And the language is written in such to where you could literally take mountain lions out and put bighorn sheep in, or bobcats out and put ducks in, and you would play hell definitively challenging the attempts to be able to do that, because if they're successful here, the precedent would be set, and there would be a likely big court battle or some sort of alternative action that the sportsmen and women just aren't fully prepared for. So long drawn out explanation like I normally do because I'm long-winded, but we've been fighting this for many, many years, and we've been fighting this every single day for the last 13 months, with 26 days left until the election on November 5th.
Yeah. Well, a lot of respect, because I'm sure it gets old at sometimes, seeming like the same old grind and everything. But we need organizations like y'all's. We need people like you that are in this fight. But I think I want to dive deep on a couple of different things too, as far as you reference the language in Proposition 127, and this is it's like for me, for example, I'm from Texas, and even for me as a hunter and understanding what's going on, it's kind of frustrating because it seems so confusing, is what it does. And you think about somebody that is reading this proposition, a voter in Colorado that doesn't hadn't really put any thought to it or anything, and what it is actually going to sound like to them reading it for just a simple yes or no answer. And I guess where I'm going with that, what I want to talk about is the education standpoint on what hunters, what outdoors men and women, what people who actually care about this and understand what they need to be telling the people who are on the fence, the people in the gray, the Coloradan that is voting but might not necessarily be a hunter. What do people need to be educating folks on as far as this proposition goes?
Simple message: let the experts manage our wildlife.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Hard stop. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It doesn't matter about emotion. It doesn't matter about facts and data and science and statistics, because all that stuff is thrown out the water when the opposition turns around and lies and deceives and creates a shell game. And so the easiest thing that we have found through the message testing and the research that we've done is allow the experts, the science-based managers, to manage wildlife in all cases, no matter what. Wildlife management should not be left up to the general public, to the public vote in any way, shape, or form. We brought wolves in 2020 itself through Proposition 114, another ballot initiative left up to the people. That was not the choice of the governing agency. That was the choice of the governor and his minions or underlings. But the agency did not support that. But they were forced to support it because the governor directed them to go that direction. And if it passed, their job is to uphold the law that the people vote on, which is piss poor wildlife management. So our argument to the general public on 99% of what we're doing, even though there might be a health and human safety component, there might be a concern about, lion populations that are becoming overpopulated. There might be concern about deer populations that are being underpopulated. Might be a concern about human-animal conflict. The underlying measure is we've been managing mountain lions specifically, as an example, for 55 years in the state of Colorado, when they became a big game species in 1965, and where they started out around 200 animals because they were a pest or a nuisance before that. You could shoot and kill at will. Once they became a big game species in 1965, to current day, we have between 4,400 and 5,000 mountain lions on the landscape. That's through science-based regulated harvest over the last 55 years. So while it took me longer to explain that to you, when somebody asks us about a bumper tailgate wrap or signs that they see on the roadside or rack cards that we hand out, palm cards that might be at an event or a sporting goods store or whatever, they say, yeah, but what's your argument to this? Leave it to the experts. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to the antis. Leave it to the experts. Period. Hard stop. I don't want an Uber driver or a UPS driver or a person working at Coors Field during Rockies games doing ballot initiative stuff on brain surgery or chemotherapy or anything that has to do with science. Mm-hmm. There's some things that we might disagree at, but let it be done by the experts. And that's the hard stop.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on with all of that, and I think that's something that, again, with the language and the fact that this is on a ballot, it's you're tugging on heartstrings and emotions of people who are on the fence. And again, not to beat a dead horse, but that's where organizations like yours and everything are very, very important from the educational standpoint. But it also comes down to just the general public and making these points clear, individually, one-on-one conversations, any interactions that you can have. And I'll talk more about that as we go on. But then something like this, like a hunting ban like this actually passing, not just from the standpoint of, give them an inch, they'll take a mile standpoint as far as what's coming next, but then you actually look at the science behind it and everything and what it could do, having all of these predators that have now no no hunting taking place of them from year to year, the ramification that's going to have on other wild game is crazy. And I think that's something that other people don't realize. So what if you have a problem with a guy shooting a cat? Well, what people don't seem to realize too is that, well, those populations still have to be controlled because, while you may eat elk and you don't, you like seeing mountain lions at the same time, there's a balance, and hunting is conservation. Hunting is that balance between all of that. And that's what some people don't realize is that excuse me, the actual wildlife populations, the difference that you're going to see in that as time goes on, if something like this were to even pass.
Yeah, and the bad part about it is, Sam, I mean, this is my 85th podcast, and I'm
Wow.
keeping tabs on this tonight when I head to Denver for business tomorrow. It'll be my 169th night in a motel this year. And that's for this issue solely.
Wow.
My 85th podcast. I'm doing about 2 nights for every one podcast. And the problem is that probably and I'm conservatively thinking here, but 80% of those podcasts are hitting not the target audience. We're preaching to the choir.
Right.
There's a certain amount of overflow, and I've had some people reach out that aren't hunters that heard me on Ranella or heard me on Bear Grease or maybe something that went on Rockcast or one of the other many podcasts. But we're not talking to the voter that we're concerned with for the most part. There's a lot of people that know that this message goes out to some of their friends that hunt and maybe don't hunt. But we have to figure out a way in our landscape to start talking to the non-hunter on a regular basis. And Ranella does a pretty decent job of that, of crossing that because of the food source, meat eater. Clay Newcomb does a pretty good job. Cameron Haynes does a great job. Joe Rogan, who speaks on our behalf on many, many different levels, covers a lot of the basis to the general non-hunter and maybe some anti-hunters. But we do a piss poor job collectively as far as the conservation organizations talking to the non-hunter. And I think being able to get that message across when it's not as important as what it is right now helps us build a rapport and a relationship and a street cred or some relevance to those non-hunters, to where when you get into a situation like this, you're not having to bust your ass for 13 months to try to pull everybody together money-wise, message-wise, collaboration-wise, unity-wise. And, I'll blame a lot of the organizations that are partners with us on this particular issue. Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Wild Sheep Foundation, Rocky Mountain Bighorn Society, National Wild Turkey Federation, Mule Deer Foundation, Muley Fanatics, Safari Club International. All these major organizations are great, but they do a damn piss poor job of being able to talk to the non-hunter that we're spending millions and millions of dollars right now to turn around and try to talk to just to be able to vote on mountain lions and bobcats. We should be taking that millions and millions of dollars and putting it toward mountain lion management or conservation or habitat or something. We shouldn't have to be doing it to the opposition.
Right.
We shouldn't have to be doing it for yard signs and billboards and advertising and traveling around and trying to do 85 podcasts and 169 nights in hotels. The message that we create is part of the message that needs to be done over and over and over through saturation and exposure to be inclusive of those individuals, not to turn around and try to get them to hunt or buy a license or get a hunter safety card, or maybe even not to go to a banquet and a fundraiser. Just get them to be acceptant in their normal way of life, just like they are for the agriculture industry for the most part, because they eat meat, they eat fish, they eat chicken. They're not, they're wearing leather goods. They have leather seats. They got a leather sofa. They are participatory in that stuff, but they're brought up into that because of the food source and the market that they're allowed to participate in. They don't participate in wild game or taxidermy or outdoor recreation that's consumptive unless somebody brings them into it or they know somebody that is acceptant of it, and then they respect that person's livelihood or their tradition or their heritage, and maybe even take some advice from them about why we hunt, whether it's a mountain lion or a pheasant. We have the opportunity to tell that story, and we haven't done a very good job of it, and I think that's exactly why we're at where we're at. The antis have been talking to them. The antis have made significant headway and remarkable force on lies and deceit and shell games and a smoke and mirror, tradition that they've created. We've got the best story on the planet, the North American model of wildlife conservation. Why don't we turn around and teach that? Why don't we have it? Why don't we turn around and make it known? Whether it's a TV show, maybe it's in school, maybe it's regular participation at functions like what RMEF does. I keep saying RMEF because they're a partner in our argument here, but they're the most recognizable organization out there for a lot of non-hunters.
Mm-hmm.
But how many times have RMEF gone to a farmer's market or to a holistic conference or to a pet conference? Or no, they don't think that that's their audience. The hell it's not. Those are the ones that are making up the decisions when it comes to the ballot at every single state that has a ballot initiative, which there's 26 of them.
Right.
Preemptive strikes on our side to be get a lot accomplished over the course of a year, to where you weren't scrambling around the last 30 or 60 days of a legislative or election cycle trying to figure out how you're going to rally the troops on our side, get the money so you can still talk to the same people that you should have been talking to for the last 11 months.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you went down
opinionated about it.
No, you have to be. I'm glad you went down that rabbit hole, because that's that was going to be one of my questions, was whether they're larger organizations like many of the ones that you just listed off, or podcast hunting shows like what we have going on here, or even just the everyday podcast consumer, video, user on social media, whatever it might be, how those people can have an impact. And I believe you touched well on that and everything. And I mean, social media it's a blessing and a curse in my mind, right? Like there's so many good things and bad things to it, but it allows you to reach so many people in different ways that you might not be able to do otherwise. And I say it on here all the time, just as far as from just a networking standpoint, hunters taking episodes like this or any of the 85 podcasts that you've done and hitting that share button, spreading the word and that kind of stuff, sending them to people that they know in Colorado. That's important. That's the kind of stuff that has to be happening. And the, for me, for example, being down here in Texas where I'm at, it's easy for a non-resident of Colorado to look at it and be like, well, why does this affect me? Why do I care? Right? Well, what's going on in another state next to you could very quickly be trending your way as well. And being able to,
and Sam too. I mean, you got to consider, we've got 350 some odd thousand individuals that are non-residents that apply for licenses here.
Exactly.
In an effort, because they strive to hunt here. They might only have preference points, but they have to apply. You have to buy a qualifying license, which typically is a small game license and a fishing license. Maybe it's a turkey license, or maybe it's a combination of multiple licenses. Then they have to buy preference points. Then they have to apply for the license. If they get the license, they still have to have that stuff. And they don't get the license, they don't get the money back on the qualifying stuff. They have an interest, whether it's over a 2-year period, a 5-year period, or some guys that might have 30 years to be able to apply for specific licenses in the state of Colorado. They have an interest. And this is about wildlife management, and they should damn sure pay attention. And the reason I bring it up like that is because the monumental effort that we've done over the course of the last 13 months of raising money from non-residents who see the value has totaled around 10,800 individual non-resident contributors to help us with our cause. Some are $10, some are $500, some are $1,000, because that's what they spend on preference points, qualifying licenses, and maybe the license that they drew. But if you got 350,000 applicants and only 10,800 of them from non-residents have contributed to this fight, we would be undeniably the most formidable opposition that these extremists have ever had if every single non-resident applicant, not somebody that's already hunting here, would kick in $10, $20. We would send these assholes packing, and they would never come back here because we would stomp them into the ground. This is more than a dollar fight. That's more than a tit for tat and a punch for punch. Currently, monetarily on television and streaming, we're being outspent 2-1. And we've raised more money than any anti-extremist campaign in North American history. And we're still being outspent. Why? Because they know that we are the most formidable opposition, the well-funded, organized opposition that they've ever seen, and we haven't even cracked the cork on it yet. We haven't even moved the needle. And the reason I'm bringing it up like this is because we're at 26 days. By the time that this airs, we'll be at 22 or 23 days. You got 3 weeks to turn around and stopgap this and halt the horses. And this is a do or die deal. If we lose here, I believe, after what Colorado has gone through litigiously, legislatively, gubernatorially, ballot initiative wise, with the demographics, the way Colorado's changed, if we lose here, and the antis will love that I say this, and our advocates will hate it, Colorado is a lost state in my mind. If we lose this here, it will be an easy push for them to get whatever the hell they want in whatever state they want, however they want, and nobody is going to turn around and be able to stop them because nobody turned around and came here to stop them here.
So this is, in your mind, this is the line in the sand. This is the
line in the concrete, and it's still drying.
Received line in the concrete and still drying. That's bold for sure. I like that. So you're not looking at this as a ban on cats. You're looking at this as a ban on hunting.
This is the first preemptive strike on a ban on hunting. And as I mentioned, I want to read this to you to where I don't get it wrong, and to any of your visitors and listeners who never heard it. This is the title of the ballot itself. A change to the Colorado revised statutes concerning a prohibition on the hunting of mountain lions, lynx, and bobcats, and in connection therewith prohibiting the intentional killing, wounding, pursuing, entrapping, or discharging or releasing of a deadly weapon at a mountain lion, lynx, or bobcat, while creating 8 exceptions to this prohibition, including for the protection of human life, property, and livestock, and establishing a violation of this prohibition as a Class 1 misdemeanor, and increasing fines and limiting wildlife license privileges for persons convicted of this crime. Listen to that again. Prohibiting the intentional killing, wounding, pursuing, entrapping, or discharging of or releasing of a deadly weapon. You tell me how the hell that is not hunting.
Right.
It is not trophy hunting. This is hunting. And if you let this happen, the statutory definition will be such to where you tell me where somebody else won't take that exact same language and say, hey, we need to do this on bighorn sheep. We need to do this on mountain goats. And if you want to get the point where these extremists are coming from, the email that they sent to their followers, to their contributors, and to their members last week mentioned the Safari Club International, Wild Sheep Foundation, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Rocky Mountain Bighorn Society, and many other trophy hunters have contributed to this cause to help stop us. And we need to stop all of them in their tracks, no matter what they hunt and where they hunt it. This is a preemptive strike. They've laid their cards on the table. Wayne Pacelli, the former HSUS CEO, in his early days of his career, said in California that their goal was to stop hunting. And when they get it accomplished there, to move to the next state and the next species and the next method of take. This is the preemptive strike that they're attempting to accomplish that on the successes of what they did in California. And if they do it here, you tell me what other state's going to stop them.
Absolutely. So let's say,
you can see I'm pissed.
I didn't mean to get you all worked up before your drive to Denver. Yeah.
Well, I'm doing it after rush hour, so I don't have to worry about too much of that. I don't hope so.
No road rage coming.
No,
up.
this is just that. Sam, we've been playing this literally. Look, I'm 61 years old. I made my livelihood out of being a wildlife control specialist, solving human-animal conflict, creating resolutions, and that doesn't mean it's all lethal. There's not a lot of non-lethal. There's a lot of habitat modifications and exclusion and deterrence and repellents and a variety of different things when it comes to wildlife conflict resolution. However, the exceptions that they give are exceptions that we have in Colorado statute now, but they've included it in here to act like they're allowing us to continue to hunt. Those exceptions include in defense of human health and safety, private property, livestock depredation, or for science-based type things, or something, that is already in statute. But they act like you can, and they've said this, we're still allowing hunting. This doesn't prohibit all hunting. Look at these exceptions. Those exceptions are not hunting. Those exceptions are not part of a license purchasing process where somebody can go out and harvest the meat and harvest the extra parts and pieces off of it. They're lying to the public, and they're lying to the public on a daily basis because the general public doesn't know. The general public just takes it for granted that what they say must be the truth. Right. So now we're having to go back and educate and re-educate and argue the point that I think game agencies haven't done a very good job of because they've got gag orders on them. But the conservation organizations have not done a very good job of because they're worried about membership. They're worried about their mission of habitat and that particular species and however other species fall into it. But they're still not talking to the target. They're not educating the target of what they do, why they do it, why we have what we have, where we started 125 years ago and where we're at today. And to do that, we need to be somewhere thinking like-minded for the next 125 years. It's serious enough to where when you sit and talk to people enough for a small period of time, you get that person to go, I never knew any of that. I didn't understand that. All I see is the ASPCA and the HSUS and the World Wildlife Fund commercials on television asking for $19 a month. I never hear about these other organizations. I never hear about all the good that they're supposed to be doing.
No,
I never knew that you guys actually did this.
The general public is extremely uneducated. I recorded a podcast not that long ago with John Stallone and the guys from Howl for Wildlife, and they talked about how they got in a cab just with their cab driver and just started asking him questions and everything just because they were curious if he knew about these different organizations, these different efforts, and what science-based wildlife management meant and what it meant to him and all that kind of stuff. And it was just no fault to the guy, but he didn't know any of it. And to your point exactly, that's what the antis are preying on is the ignorance of the general public.
Well, and I want to tell you a quick story, and I know I'm long-winded, so my stories are never very quick. But on September 29th, I went to a Colorado Rockies game with some friends, and we went to a bar afterwards just to drink a couple beers. I was staying in town that night, and we went to this bar, and there was a bunch of young women and young guys, and they were shooting pool and they were doing stuff, and I just decided to start asking questions, and had to buy drinks to be able to do it because they thought that I was some old pervert or something. And I was just trying to get some fact-finding research done here. And I ended up talking to 25 girls that were between the age of 21 and 28. And 21 of those girls were registered to vote. The other 4 were not. The girls made between $60,000 and $150,000 a year, upper level, downtown Denver, professional business women. Most of them, all of them seem to have college degrees. When I said, I just want to ask you four or five political questions. And they said, and we don't talk politics. I said, I'll buy a round of drinks. We talk politics. And so the first round of drinks that I bought, I asked, how many girls here are willing, who are you going to vote for president? Now, I only surveyed the 21 because those are the ones that were registered voters. But 19 out of the 21 said that they were going to vote for Kamala Harris. And I thought, this is a moot point. I might as well just quit buying drinks and go back to the table that I came from. But when I asked questions about wolf introduction, and those girls, the same 19 that were saying that they would vote for Kamala Harris, also voted for wolves back in 2020, 4 years earlier. Mm-hmm. Some of them mountain bike, some of them hike, none of them hunted. And the reason I'm saying this and getting into depth on it, because it shows you that even uneducated, ignorant people can make the right choices. By the time we got down into the politics of today, and I asked the question about Proposition 127, 16 of the 21 women, well over 75%, 16 of the 21 said that they would vote no on Proposition 127 in our favor, and ask the question, why the hell are we even allowed to vote on stuff like this? Why are we allowed to help make decisions on stuff that we have nothing about, know nothing about? When I asked him about the fur ban, which is Ordinance 308, which will ban the sale of fur, it'll also ban cowboy hats, it'll also ban fishing lures and Native American crafts, the same 16 out of 21 said no, they would not support that. The other ones were kind of up in the air, on the fence. When I asked him about the one slaughterhouse ban that was here, it's Ordinance 309 to ban the one lamb slaughterhouse in the city and county of Denver. 19 of the 21 said that they would not vote for that. And the reason being is because they didn't want to screw with people's ability for a food source or to screw with the jobs of the people that actually live there. Now, this is interesting, Sam, because
it is.
19 of those 21 said they were voting for Kamala Harris. So you've got left-leaning, liberally minded, well-educated women who are not educated about the issues that I'm talking about. But every single one of them, from almost 100% to down in around the 75 percentile, we're going to vote no on all three of these particular issues that affect sportsmen, that affect the agriculture community, and affect the livestock industry, to the point to where maybe there's a glimmer of hope in today's society that people will make the right decisions when it's going to affect other people, especially on things that you have no knowledge about and no skin in the game on.
So do you, and you probably know the answer, you've piqued my curiosity. Are they in favor of your side of things? Are they gonna vote no on Proposition 127, just because they don't think that the voters should have a say in that? Is it because they got a little bit of remorse over what happened with wolves? What was their general feedback on that as far as why they're going to vote that way?
There was a combination of efforts that came out of them in trying to explain it. And wolves have been in the news essentially almost every day for the last 4 years. And specifically since we dumped the 12 off or 10 off in December, and they've been in the news every day in some capacity. The livestock depredation, between the pups, between the killings, between the death, between the urban-rural divide and the agriculture community up in arms, and then having to translocate a translocated pack of wolves because they were causing problems. It was in the news. Those girls said that they never paid attention to anything until it became a daily issue. The mountain lion deal, because it was similar to the wolf issue, became part of a deal that was a daily deal. It was in the news. It paralleled almost all the wolf stories. People were going to vote on it again. So a combination of efforts, they actually looked at and said, I voted on the wolf deal 4 years ago. I didn't think I needed to vote on it. I didn't think I should vote on it, but I wanted to see a wolf, or I wanted to hear a wolf. But seeing what their checking the box did caused consternation on their behalf by 16 of the 21 young women, who all then said that they would not vote in support of, they would oppose 127 because they believed that they didn't have a voice. They might have an interest, they might have a curiosity, and they might have an opinion, but they didn't believe that they should be making the decisions when the game agency, Parks and Wildlife in Colorado, has the experts, the 350 scientists. And it's interesting because these are upper level educated women, some in the medical profession, some in the technological digital profession. Two of them were in aerodynamics or aeronautical engineering or something. Upper educated women that have their own field of expertise. And some of the bantering back and forth of the talk that they had themselves was such that they joked and said, well, I don't know anything about mountain lions. And then the one would say, well, you don't know anything about airlines either. And she's like, I do too. I have a degree in that. So they would get back and forth. But they made the point very clear that about things that they cared about, but know nothing about, when we have experts in the field doing it, they didn't think that the general public should be making those decisions.
Well, that is definitely, I think, as you put it earlier on, that's a glimmer of hope for sure, as far as people are at least paying attention. Yeah. I would hope so, at least. So, and I should have dove a little deeper on this point earlier on, but let's say that we have a listener to this episode, for example. Perhaps they tuned in randomly, or maybe one of our followers sent it to them, whatever it might be. We've piqued their curiosity. They're live in Colorado. They're going to vote. They're not a hunter. They've been on the fence and everything. Why is mountain lion hunting good?
Mountain lion hunting is good because it equally balances the mountain lion, just as bobcat hunting or bobcat trapping with cage traps. We can't trap with foothold traps or body gripping devices or cable restraint devices here. It's cage traps only, live traps, just like what you buy at Big R or Tractor Supply. But the harvest of mountain lions and bobcats is good because they are two of 78 game species in the state of Colorado out of 961 species of total wildlife that Parks and Wildlife manages. To be able to appropriately manage two species in conjunction with many, many other species for a variety of things, not just human consumption or not just human recreation as the anti-hunters express. All of these pieces of the parts through a highly regulated process benefit each other. Do mountain lions benefit sick deer? Possibly in some areas. But what if you have no sick deer? Then they're going to eat healthy deer. If you listen to the antis, mountain lions are going to solve chronic wasted disease. Could they knock chronic wasted disease down? Maybe in high concentrated areas. There's not been any studies to prove that to where it's going to be long term. But I can tell you that hunters are going to take more deer than mountain lions do, and hunters haven't been able to turn around and control the CWD deal. Mm-hmm. Will mountain lions be affected by other harvest of other ungulates? Possibly. But they all feed off of each other, Sam. If you have 1,000-piece puzzle, like we have 961 species of wildlife, you don't know what that puzzle is, and it's not complete until you put all the pieces together. Right. But if you just take 78 pieces of the puzzle, like what we've got 78 game species, you don't have an even flowing upright system. It's not fluid like, because all the other species depend and are determined by all of the other components of that puzzle. And I think mountain lion hunting is good because it's factual, it's based upon science. It's proven that when they were a pest or a nuisance and they became a big game species, that now they are one of the most prolific big game animals that we actually have. They're one of the most highly regulated big game animals that we have. They're one of the most scientifically studied big game animals that we have, not just here, but in the Western United States. There's more data that's been collected on studies and compilations of information here in Colorado that other states are utilizing. And you know how you do that? Through harvest, through hounds, through studies and data. And you can't do any of that if you don't have a funding mechanism to be able to support that, and you don't have value of that animal on the landscape. If you take that animal off the landscape right now and you allow no harvest of mountain lions, they will not be a big game. They will not be classified as a big game animal in the state of Colorado. If they're not classified as a big game animal, then there is no compensation for depredation to livestock producers any longer. So somebody loses a sheep to a mountain lion, sorry, you're SOL because it's not classified as a big game species. Somebody loses a horse or a cow, sorry, you do not get compensation because that is no longer a big game species. Hunting of mountain lions is a benefit to the lion, to where you're looking at an entire population, just like blades of grass on a turf. You're not looking at one animal of that species. You're not turning around trying to dissect it of one or two individual animals. It's the entire lawn that you want to make it look good. And I think that that's the thing that people don't realize is, what benefit do lions get? Benefit of lions get a significant amount of biodiversity. They get a significant amount of control efforts from outside, so they don't have as much infanticide where they're eating their young. So they don't have much as inbreeding. So they don't have much predation issues on livestock because there's a control measure to some degree. They don't get too populated for their habitat, which this is not Yellowstone or the Western United States 300 years ago. Colorado is a state that's got 5.9 million people and 84 million annual visitors. We didn't have that in 1965.
Right.
And mountain lions have still flourished with a regulated hunting season. And I think all of that proves why hunting is good for mountain lions.
I couldn't have framed it any better myself for sure. That's very well put. Well, what I know we're getting close to that hour mark and everything that we were shooting for at the beginning of this, but in addition to considering which direction that they vote, what else can people do? Can Colorado residents do to help the cause here? Because again, you pointed out we're days away from election day at the time that this episode's coming out, so it's crunch time. What do people who are concerned about this, who care about this, what do they need to be doing in these final days?
I'm gonna give you a list of to-dos, like a honeydew list, and we still need money. We're still buying advertising time. We're still buying slots. We're trying to match the dollar for dollar spend that their opposition is doing. We still need to be able to talk to a significant amount of that target audience along the I-25 corridor. If somebody has $5 or $50 or has an interest in this and wants to contribute something, they can go to wildlifedeservebetter.com and contribute to that. That's the issues committee. Or to make it easy, they can go to savethehuntcolorado.com and donate there. Also on Save the Hunt Colorado are 2 raffles that SCI are doing on our behalf. One is a whitetail hunt for 2 in Saskatchewan, and the other one is a Gunworks gun from Gunworks and the Salida Gun Shop. I think it's about an $8,000 firearm. The whitetail hunt's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 grand. You go buy tickets for those. All of the money generated from that SCI is providing comes to this fight. Those are 2 monetary things that you can actually get some benefit out of if you're lucky enough to win. We did have a mountain lion raffle and another Gunworks raffle back in June. Generated a lot of money to the cause, but it's something that somebody can feel like that they can do, and they can, make a tax deductible contribution out of it, so to speak, because they're actually buying raffle tickets to Safari Club. I think the biggest thing that we need people to do is in the next 5, 6, 7 days, make sure that you're registered to vote. Make sure that your voter registration is up to date. Because if you moved in the last 6 months, you likely won't get a ballot unless you re-registered or you changed and updated your registration. Register to vote. Make sure that when time comes when you get your ballot in the mail, or you go to the assessor's office and you collect your ballot because you just recently moved, that you fill it out correctly. There's 14 ballot initiatives on our ballot this year, 7 constitutional and 7 statutory. People got a hell of a lot of reading to do if they're going to turn around and go through the thing. I can tell you it's the most boring read that you'll ever get, but if you read the Blue Book in Colorado, which is 109 pages this year, it's mind-boggling that a state has become what we all are by citizens' initiatives, that you can turn around and put as much stuff in paper just to accomplish what you want, when the other forms of government have already denied you on the opportunity to take things away. So you can make sure you register to vote, make sure it's updated, donate, buy raffle tickets. And I will say 2 things, last but not least. If you have people in Colorado that you know and you're not a resident, reach out to them and say, this is really important to me. I apply for licenses in Colorado. I want to hunt Colorado again. I love to hunt Colorado. I'd like to come see you and the family during ski season or holidays or whatever. Would you please vote no on 127? Everybody knows people in Colorado. Everybody has people that are in their congregation or that are family members or their business members or whatever, and they're all connected in some form or fashion. You're more than likely willing to take advice from somebody that you know and that you respect and that you like, and you know what their livelihood is, than a complete stranger. Do us a favor and just reach out to whoever the hell you know. Text message, email, phone call, do group text, whatever. Loop them in on our website, loop them in on who we are, what we do, and that we are opposing 127. The final thing that you can do is October 18th at the Colorado State Capitol on the West Lawn from 11 till 2. We're having a rally to oppose 127. The media will be there. It's right outside the governor's office. That's right outside the chambers of the legislature. People can bring their dogs. They can bring their upland bird dogs, their hound dogs, their waterfowl dogs, their beagles. Bring your stock dogs for all we care, as long as they're well mannered, and bring a poop bag in case you got to clean something up. But there will be speakers there. There will be signs available. There will be tailgate stickers available. And this is an opportunity for us as a sportsman community to collaborate, unify, show the media, show the Capitol, show the residents of Denver, and take advantage of the news that's going to be there, and show them that sportsmen and women provide a service to every individual person and voter and resident of the state of Colorado because of what we do for wildlife. Those are the multiple things that you can do. That's October 18th, no admission, just show up. There's notices for that online on our Instagram page at C.R.W.M. You can go to the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management Facebook. It's on a bunch of different pages at this point in time. And we would urge people to see what we're doing here in Colorado to stop these sort of efforts, to where you can help us build the playbook and finish the roadmap on what we are doing to sustain science-based wildlife management and the North American model of wildlife conservation. We win here, that playbook's available to anybody. We lose here, you want to turn around and bury us, and you better start digging a bunker in your own state, because I guarantee they're coming after you next.
Well, guys, y'all heard it from the man himself. Those are the things that y'all can be doing to help everybody out. Dan, I know we're getting to the end of our time here, but thank you very much for coming on the show and sharing your passion and all of the issues at hand with our listeners and everything. Hopefully, we reach somebody through this that helps the cause, and that we at least educate the public, educate folks that don't know, or on the fence, or just had no idea that any of this was going on potentially. So thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Appreciate the opportunity. The one request I would ask Sam is, if we're victorious, I'm going to go back on another road show, and I want another 85 or 86 or 87 podcasts. And we want to tell people how we were successful. If we lose, nobody will want to ever hear from us again, but we don't think that's going to happen.
Well, when you guys win, we'll be sure that we do a follow-up episode with you, get you back on here and talk some more about it for sure.
Good deal, Sam. Thanks a bunch. And aim small, miss small.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in to another Fall Obsession podcast. As you guys heard here, please share this episode. If you are from Colorado, know folks from Colorado, whatever it might be, have that conversation with them. Send them these resources that are floating all over the place, whether it's from our show or others, and help educate the general public on mountain lion and cat hunting and what Proposition 127 would mean. So with that, we're wrapping it up. Thank you guys for tuning in to another Fall Obsession podcast. I'm back with you guys again next week, and I'll catch you then.